What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Countdown Scouting Network. I'm your host, Joey Garcia, and today we are breaking down the cornerback rankings that I have for the 2024 NFL Draft. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to try to rapid fire this one. There's 27 guys. We're going to try to get through all 27 guys in this. So, let's start out first with Johnny Dixon from Penn State. He is a smaller corner, outside corner, probably just a zone guy. Him and the number 25 guy I have on this list, Willie Robertson. Honestly, all right. So all three of these guys, Willie Roberts from Louisiana Tech, Fentrell Cypress transfer from Virginia to Florida State, and Johnny Dixon from Penn State. All three are outside corners. Mostly, I would say they're probably going to stay as outside corners, but they're small enough bodies. Maybe you put them inside. I'm just concerned about their hip flexibility. I think they're probably all three zone coverage corners, and that's about it. They don't really do a great job hitting. Actually, Fentrell Cypress is decent. Does a good job of run support, but that's about it. Next, we have Kalen King. Kalen King was a guy who was on my top 5 summer scouting for cornerbacks, and he just kind of disappoints. He's smaller than I would like. He's an outside corner only. He doesn't have great hips. His turn and run, his long speed's a little bit of a concern. His short area quickness as well has kind of just made it where he's going to be a zone corner as well. So these guys are zone specific corners at this moment. I just don't really see how you would feel confident really playing any of these corners um, man to man on anyone like that. Next, we got to go to Nehemiah Pritchett from Auburn. He's a guy who I will say him and Kamal Hayden are guys that kind of surprised me this year that I was not expecting to do as well as they did. Nehemiah Pritchett is just a very long corner. He doesn't really do a good job in run. He doesn't do a great job pressing, which you would really want him to with his arm. So that's a little bit of an issue. But I really like his hip fluidity and everything like that. So if he can get a little bit more tough, or if they could just play him on like a cover three, if he's a cover three corner, that might be all he is, and that's okay. Kamal Hayden's very good this year in man-to-man coverage. I felt really comfortable with him in man-to-man. It's just kind of a one-year wonder thing, so I don't know if it's going to stick with him or not. His zone coverage ability is so. He also cannot tackle to save his life. So let's go to Shaw Smith Wade from Washington State. He is Yeah, he is 5'11", 175. So I think he's gonna be fine in the slot. I don't know if you want to play him on the outside. He's very small. I'm concerned about his hip flexibility to play in the slot. That's really all I'm concerned about. I don't think he's not good at coming up to help with the run either. So those are my two concerns with him. I don't know if he can fully play just nickel because of his hip flexibility. But man, I also don't think his size really helps him on the outside unless it's a zone only corner. Like a lot of these other guys, I think zone only corner is probably where he's going to be. Jarvis Brownlee from Louisville is about 6 foot, 190 pounds. So he's got good size to him. He's probably mostly a slot only corner. I know that they tried to play him a little bit on the inside as well. But it's just he's again, I don't want to just keep repeating over and over again, but he's kind of a zone only corner. I think he can play the nickel if it's zone. His run grade is pretty good. I really thought he was good against the run, so you can probably play him in the nickel. I think you can play him outside as well, but I don't feel confident with him doing man-to-man coverage. So that's kind of where I am with that. With the next guy, let me pull him. Yeah, I don't want to get this wrong here. Let me pull up Kalen Carson. I think he's a smaller guy. I want to double check before saying something. Yeah, so he's slightly smaller. He's 5'11", 190. So he's got a good 195, excuse me. So he's got a good condensed frame. This is Kalen Carson. He's just as you would expect for a guy that's 5'11", 195, and he's kind of condensed. He doesn't have great long speed. He's someone who's probably a zone defender, like we have been saying. Um, but he comes up and makes tackles, so that's great. He's someone that can come up and hit. He's someone that can play some zone for you. He can probably play inside or outside if it's zone, but I would not put him man to man on the inside. I really wouldn't. And I wouldn't do press man coverage single high with him on the outside either, because that long speed is what's going to fail you. Let's go to Renardo Green. He's the other one of three Florida State guys I have. So he's going to be an outside corner. I think he's very athletic. He's another guy that loves to come up and run. I don't have his size in front of me, but that's okay. Oh, there it is. Perfect. So he's 6 foot 185, but he comes up and hits. Like for 185 corner, he really comes up and hits. He's got good ball skills. He feels very confident in man and zone, so I do like that. But again, his athleticism's not great. But other than that, I think this is a fairly strong corner class, and that's kind of why I have him at 18. His coverage skills is good, not great. His speed's good, not great. And he can come up and hit, but again, his wrapping up ability is probably just for a corner. For a 185-pound corner, it's good. Let's go to Andrew Phillips from Kentucky. This is where we start getting into these guys that I really, really like. They're confident, they're cocky, and then they come up and make hits. So he is another guy who's going to be playing on the outside. He loves to get up in receivers' grills. So this is a guy who really wants to get up in your grill. I love it. Let's play press man with him. Heavy press man corner. All right, let's go to Kyrie Jackson from Oregon. He is a bigger body guy. He's 6'2", 6'3", 195 pounds. And he is just size, speed, athleticism. He's got very good hips. Obviously, you're not going to want to put him on the inside, but he's very, very good. You look at him and you're like, oh, this is the prototypical cover 3 corner. He can play cover 3. He can play press man. He can play everything you really want. And he can come up and kind of hit a little bit too. I don't know if his long speed's really there, but he's got good arms where he can kind of delay guys for a good amount of time, where I think he can probably play all that stuff. But realistically, I think cover 3 is probably his best scheme. But I think he's scheme versatile enough where you're not going to get hindered by anything like that. Does he have elite traits? No, not elite traits. But I think he's a solid number 2 corner in the system. Let's go to Cam Hart. Cam Hart's basically the same guy, honestly. He's very long. I think he's a little bit more physical than Kyrie Jackson is. But again, recovery speed with Cam Hart's something that's a little bit of an issue. I think he's also probably a cover 3 corner as well. Let's go to Max Melton. He is most likely a slot corner. He's got really good hips. There's a chance he can play on the outside. He can at least swing onto the outside, but I think that he's more fit for a man-to-man, more fit for a nickel corner role. So I do really like him. He is one of my guys for this class, and I really, really enjoy it. Let's go to Josh Newton. Josh Newton is a guy who I think is only an outside corner. I've heard some people talk about him being an inside guy at the nickel. I don't see it. I don't see the hips. I don't see, I really don't see enough where I feel comfortable playing him and guys that can run two-way routes. Having him on the outside, 6 foot, 190 pounds. He presses. He's physical. He can come up and make the tackle. But again, with him, I don't see elite change of direction or anything like that. Jarrian Jones, someone that I think he can play some outside, but he's probably going to be an elite nickel defender. I think I don't know if he'll be an elite nickel defender. I don't know why I said that, but I think he's just starting to become comfortable in the nickel position. He wasn't super comfortable last year playing on outside and inside. Right now he's just playing nickel. I think that's where you need to keep him. I think you got to let him cook there and just get more and more confident as a nickel defender. DJ James, again, another guy who is fairly small, but he's also going to be playing in the nickel. Yeah, he's just fairly small. Like, when I say fairly, I mean very. 6 foot, 6 foot to 6'1", somewhere in that range, 165 pounds. Very good athlete. He's a very good athlete. He plays the ball very well. He's not afraid to get up in a receiver's grill, even at 165 pounds. Um, but I'm just concerned with really his size. He's not a blazer or anything like that, where you feel confident just letting him go, and he's got makeup speed. He doesn't really have that, so he's getting pushed off guys. But I've seen smaller guys do it, man. I think if you put right now, have him in the slot. I think he's got good enough hips for that. Put another 15 pounds on him, and he's 180 pounds, 100, even 175 pounds. I feel a little bit more confident. But you look at Emmanuel Forbes for Washington last year, and that's kind of where I see him. I think he's got a little bit better hips where he can play on the inside. But you could always play him as an off coverage zone guy if you wanted to. Chris Abrams-Draine. I love Chris Abrams-Draine, guys. I think I'm the highest out of anyone I've talked to on Chris Abrams-Draine. I think he's a little bit small, but he loves to hit. He's got instinct. He's not the best. He doesn't have the best uh, athleticism, but his anticipation's. I love his anticipation. Now he reminds me of Nick Needham. You remember Nick Needham from UTEP, undrafted free agent, went to the Miami Dolphins. I always bring up Miami Dolphins guys because that's who I watch the most. But yeah, he has anticipation. He's got relentless effort that he puts towards people. He loves to hit. He's probably just a nickel, but I think he could play a little outside. I think nickel is probably where he's going to make his bread and butter. Now we look at two of the best nickel corners in this draft. Kamari Lassiter probably can play outside, but I think nickel is better for him. I know a lot of people talk about him playing on the outside. I really like him. He's versatile enough he can play both. I really like him at nickel because he comes up and wants to hit. And he's got quick enough feet where he can work against these quick slot receivers. But Mike Sanderskill is, he is the best nickel we have in this class, bar none. He's good in the run game. He's instinctual. He's got good makeup speed. He's just not versatile enough to play on the outside. That's kind of why he's only at 8. When realistically, you could make a case for him being top 5, top 4 even. Ennis Rakestraw Jr. from Missouri, the second Missouri guy we got on here, the highest ranked Missouri guy we got on here. Outside corner. He is a ball hawk. He is physical. He's a little small. He's not great at tackling, but he's physical and he wants to come up and make tackles. His athleticism's not elite. It's okay enough. His long speed's probably really the biggest concern I have with him, but he makes plays. He wants to come after the ball and make some plays. So I really do enjoy that. TJ Tampa, super athletic cornerback right here. He's probably I think he's scheme versatile. I think probably someone who would do better starting out in zone, but he's got good enough man skills. I think he just has to. Sometimes he tries to punch with 2 hands on press. That's a little bit of an issue. I think he's a little sloppy in some of his footwork as well. But other than that, I think this is a really, really good corner. And he's not even close to tapping his potential yet. That's probably the best part about him. All right, speaking about tapping their potential, Kool-Aid McKinstry, outside cornerback from Alabama, very technical. I like his technique. I like everything about him. He's not the most athletic guy out there. He doesn't have the elite traits that you really want, but he's got great instincts. He's got good enough length on him. He's got good enough recovery speed. He's strong enough at the point of attack. He doesn't really come up to make tackles. That's probably his biggest flaw, is that in his recovery speed. But he does everything to the book. He's very technical in his ways, and that's why I got him as a top 5, because he's a very, very solid prospect. If he's your number 2 corner, you've got to love it. If he's your number 2 corner, you have to love having him over there. All right, here's a guy I really like. I just am concerned with his size. Nate Wiggins from Clemson. He runs very fast. I think he ran in a 4.29 or something like that. 4.29, but he's like 6'1", 178 pounds. I really want him to be over 180. That's really where I wanted him to be. But he's 6 foot, 178, runs a 4.29, very good feet. Doesn't come up and make tackles, and I mean he's 179 pounds, so you kind of expect that. But he can play zone. Very, very good man corner though. Terrion Arnold, my favorite corner prospect in this draft class. He's not the best. Obviously, I got two guys in front of him, but he's my favorite because he's a safety converted to corner. You usually see corners converted to safety. Safety converted to corner. He can play inside. He can play outside. He can play safety if you really want him to. He's got very good hips, very good feet. Comes up and makes tackles. I love this kid because of how versatile he is and a defensive weapon. You talk about guys people are looking for Deebo Samuel, Tyreek Hills, where they can play slot, they can play outside, they can play some running back, take jet sweeps. This is that kind of person, but for the defensive side, where he can play inside, outside, he can play box safety, he can play free safety for you. Cooper DeJean does the same thing, better tackler. But I think, he's just a better tackler. He's going to mostly play on the outside. He's not as versatile as Terrion Arnold, but he's more technical, I think, as an outside cornerback. He's more physical as an outside cornerback. He comes up and makes tackles. So that's kind of why I have him as number 2. Again, he's a guy who I have said I've compared to Jalen Ramsey a little bit before. And I know it's funny because I compared him to Jalen Ramsey and then said that he tackles really, really well. But Jalen Ramsey's not a bad tackler. At least in his early days, he wasn't a bad tackler. Now he kind of takes some plays off when it comes to tackling because he's a little bit older and he wants to hold up his body. But I really like these two corners are my favorite just because I love versatility. Cooper DeJean and Terrion Arnold for their versatility. I really, really love them. And then finally, Quinyon Mitchell from Toledo is my number 1 corner, and I'm just super impressed with him. Watching his tape, I'm like, man, this dude's a zone monster. This dude is very physical, wants to come up and hit. Not the greatest tackler, but he wants to come up and hit, and he's a zone machine. And then going to the Senior Bowl, we've already talked about it, but going to the Senior Bowl, calling out Roman Wilson, who's probably one of the best route runners at the Senior Bowl, on one-on-ones, locking down everyone in these one-on-ones where corner's supposed to win maybe 20%, 25% of one-on-one battles. The rest, it's meant for the offensive players to have the big advantage. And he was just locking down these receivers, these elite route running receivers. Ricky Pearsall, you had Roman Wilson, you had you had some other guys too, and he was just locking them down. So I'm very impressed. I think he's physical enough. He can play press man. He's got the length. He can play man. He can play zone. I think he's an all-around corner who, again, has not hit his ceiling yet. TJ Tampa is a guy who hasn't hit his ceiling. Quinyon Mitchell hasn't either, but I think Quinyon Mitchell can be an all-pro level corner. I'd take him in the top 10. I would. This is a guy I'd take in the top 10. So appreciate you guys watching. If you did enjoy, go ahead and leave a like and subscribe. And next thing we're going to be doing is I think we have enough guys for 250 players. So we're going to do our top 250. I think I'm going to make a big board. And at first it was supposed to be 100, but let's see how many we've got on here that we can rank. And we'll go over that. So I appreciate you guys stopping by. Have a good day. Peace.